Well, it's great to be back at Eagle Brook. Always feels like coming home. I married an Austin, Minnesota girl 25 years ago. Her dad, her grandfather, and great-grandfather all retired from Hormel, so you can say I married into spam. That's how we got that whole thing. It's very much a part of our family. And she uses the term Uffda around our house as two different pronunciations. She says Uffda when something's wrong, broken, needs to be fixed, but then she says woofda when she's cold. So this is a term I am very familiar with. As we talk today about marital satisfaction, to the couples in the room, well, my passion in life is helping you experience high levels of marital satisfaction. To those who may be in drift, what you can do to step out of drift and back into decision to enjoy marital satisfaction. And to the singles who may walk down an aisle one day, or if not, you still have so many marriages around you that you are a voice. You get to speak into and you have influence in the couples in your family, at work, in your community. And so I want to start right off in Ecclesiastes. I love this book of the Bible. It's dark, it's pessimistic, very much fits my personality. 12 chapters. Chapter 1, life is hard. Chapter 12, then you die. Welcome to Eagle Brook. We're here to encourage you on your journey. And in the middle of life is hard and then you die, you get Ecclesiastes 9, 7 through 9. This is my marriage mission statement. Go, eat your food with gladness and drink your wine with a joyful heart. For it is now that God favors what you do. Getting back to a place where we put the devices in another room and we gather around the table with family and friends enjoying the food and drink that God has placed before us. Always be clothed in white and always anoint your head with oil, speaking there of joy and festivity. And then look at what verse 9 says. Endure life with your wife all your miserable days. Now, when I misquote that, and it's not on the screen at churches, I love when I'll with passion go, endure life with your wife all your miserable days, and I'll get all throughout a crowd, people will be going, That's good, that is good. That's the Bible. Okay, that's not what it says. It doesn't say endure life with your wife all your miserable days. It says enjoy life with your wife, whom you love all the days of this meaningless life. A theme throughout Ecclesiastes, meaningless, meaningless, all is meaningless. That God has given you under the sun, speaking there of life upon the earth, all your meaningless days. For this is your lot in life, and in your toilsome labor under the sun. The word toilsome there means grueling. That's the grind of life. Providing for a family can be very challenging. Getting through life can be difficult, but I want you to see in the scripture today, God did not give you your spouse to be the grind of life. He gave you your spouse to go through the grind of life with. And if you're dating online, you've met someone online, listen, a good match is a good start, but it is not a guarantee for marital satisfaction. Because marital satisfaction is something you choose. It's a decision that you make, not something you wait or something you hope finds you. I tell the young people in our community all the time, it doesn't matter where you meet. It's what you do after you meet. I don't care if you met on eHarmony, Match.com, FarmersOnly.com, Ancestry.com. I don't care where you meet. It's what you do after you meet. Why? Because marital satisfaction is based on factors and skills, and that's what we want to look at today. Factors and skills that couples can do something about in any season or stage of life. When I'm coaching or counseling couples, they always want to talk about the season or the stage that they're in, and I'll hear it often in the words or even just the tone. We can enjoy this season. We can enjoy this stage, but we're going to enjoy life together. We have plans for our marriage later. And I'm telling you, you can enjoy marital satisfaction. You can experience high levels of marital satisfaction in any season or stage. We're in a difficult season right now called a pandemic, and when we're done today, we'll still be in a pandemic. I can't help us get out of this season. You can't do anything about this season. What about stage? You're watching right now with a 3, a 5, and a 7-year-old. At the end, you're still gonna have a 3, a 5, and a 7-year-old. But no matter what season or stage you find yourself in marriage, it's the factors and skills necessary to achieve it. I was recently at First Baptist Dallas, and I hate autocorrect. It got a hold of my tweet, but I stopped it right before it went out. But I almost tweeted to this conservative church and community, Join us tonight for a fun date night where we're going to explore the factors and skills necessary to achieve high levels of marijuana satisfaction. And then I tagged it with, let's roll. So I stopped it before the tweet went out. I am convinced whoever you are watching with right now or walked in here with, you can experience high levels of marital satisfaction because it's a choice. And you know who usually gives me the most pushback? It's people with infants, toddlers, preschoolers. You can't enjoy life together when you have small children. It's not possible. We just got to get through this stage. Get through it. We'll enjoy life later. Be careful with that because then you're going to be like, just get them off to school. Just get them out of school. And we're always looking forward in the next stage. When we were brand new parents, our daughter Corinne's going to turn 18 this year. Nursing did not go well for us. First 6 weeks of her life, she wasn't taking to nursing. She wasn't taking to breastfeeding. It was bad, and there was a lot of tension in our home as brand new parents, and I'll never forget going to the doctor for the 6-week visit. We sat there, and he looks at her head chart and says, looks great, looks at her length, looks great, gets to her weight, and the doctor says these words, and I quote, "Good night. What are you doing, starving this baby?" Oh no is right. Oh no, what are you thinking? My wife starts crying. But that night we had small group. If you're not in a small group, you gotta get in a small group because it has saved our marriage more than once. And you know why? Every small group needs an old person in it. I never wanna be the oldest person in the small group because I want a grandma or a grandpa. And you know what I'm talking about. I want the grandma in my group who, when she was raising her kids, she let them pick up cigarette butts and chew on them. That's who you need in your group. You need the grandpa who used to let his kids sleep in the back window of the car on long trips while you strapping them in like they're launching them to outer space. You need that guy. You need the grandparents who let their kids drink out of garden hoses. Let's get back to that place. Like my dad, he used to teach my brother and I that the bell on the ice cream truck meant they were out of ice cream. That's a good dad. You need that guy in your group. And guess what? If you don't have that guy in your group, you are that guy. When we had that lady, we were sitting there lamenting over how bad of a parent we were being. And I'll never forget this lady getting up and going into our kitchen and grabbing this free formula that they gave us at the hospital. We had read all the books. You don't give your baby formula. You get him nursing. And she starts making a bottle, and I walk in. I go, hey, yo, whoa, what's going on here? I'm making Corinne this bottle. I go, oh, no, you're not. She goes, give me one good reason why I can't give Corinne this formula. I go, well, for starters, we want her to be good at math. How many of you have read the books that make you go crazy as parents? Corinne sucked that bottle down. And then our life was stolen because of the Binky. Remember the Binky? You left home without the Binky, the meltdowns. We were judged by parents, and Corinne used a Binky till she was 4. And sure, she can't pronounce her S's. But she has nailed the other 23 letters, and we're proud of her. I'm not the only one that was raised on formula. So, had the meltdown. And then the meltdown in the stores. And that's why you need those grandparents. They stepped over. My mom stepped over me more times when I would fall down in Kmart and go, hey, whenever you're over that, you can meet me on aisle 8. If you don't get over it real soon, you're going to get your own ride home. How many of you remember, anybody with me on this? You know exactly what I'm talking about. So, and then the kids are going off to school. I didn't even know this was a debate. But do we let the kids go on the school bus? Of course we do. How else are they gonna learn about life? I was raised, raise your hand if you were raised on a school bus. Yeah, how many remember the days when the drivers used to kick off unruly kids? Anybody remember that? Yeah, I was kicked off the bus more times than I can count. This mouth got me in so much trouble, and the goal was always, you gotta beat the bus home. And I grew up in the cornfields of Illinois, and so you'd see me going through the cornfields as fast as I could to get home, and so long as you stayed out ahead of the combine, you were fine. But you got home. Marital satisfaction is possible in any season or stage of life if you will focus on the factors and skills to achieve it. It looks like this if you were to put it in chart form. Let's walk through this. Because your marriage is only doing one of two things. You're either living in decision daily to enjoy life together, or you stop making the decision and you drift. No one ever sets out to drift. I don't meet with couples and they're like, we decided a few years ago to just stop putting the time and the energy into this relationship. They no longer decide, and now they're in drift. Now, most couples score the same with attraction and chemistry early on. The research tells us that happily married couples and divorced couples would score the same in relationship satisfaction at this stage right here. But when you get on the bus together and now you are forming connection, if I can talk to my single friends, so very important. Dr. Scott Stanley at the University of Denver, he talks about the importance of making decisions because decisions have power. If you've ever met a young person today, and I love it at our church, I'll go, hey, are you guys dating? Well, I wouldn't call it dating. Is this your boyfriend? I wouldn't call him my boyfriend. What is it? Decide, because decisions have power. And I know you think you're protecting yourself, but decisions have power in relationships. So connection is so very important that you pursue traditional relationship formation milestones. And again, it's not how you meet, it's what you do after you meet. Because then this bus is only taking one of two roads. You're either deciding and making the decision, because if you do, guess what? The person you marry is going to change. I am not the same person I was 25 years ago. You know why? Because children will change you. Children will suck the life right out of you. And you'll become a different, but you know what else changes you? Bills change you. Jobs change you. Physical, that's what Ecclesiastes 12 talks about. The body begins to break down. You're going to change as you go through different seasons and stages. But if you're deciding, I love this, you're living now in discovery. I get to date somebody new. My spouse, stick with me on this illustration. This is my spouse. It's a different person. I hear it in counseling all the time. He's changed. Okay, about an hour later, I'm talking about some of the changes they can make, and she'll say, he's never gonna change. Well, you just told me he can change. You told me he's done it. See, discovery is curiosity and fascination as you go through different seasons and stages. We're going through this season, and I mean, when we went into shutdown in Missouri in March and April and May, we just sat out in the garage, Amy and I, on lawn chairs. We raised chickens, and we were just looking at our chickens. Boy, life's exciting, isn't it? But this has changed us, and make no mistake about it, we're all changing in this season. But we're living in discovery, curiosity, and fascination, and growing closer together, devotion and dedication. But if you stop deciding, the bus takes another road, and you begin to drift. And it's that disillusionment that I usually catch a couple. It's at this stage right here that a couple has learned new things about one another, or they've both changed, and it's like, this isn't what I signed up for. If you would say that's true of your marriage right now, at any of these stages, you can begin to decide. That's where it starts. Making the decision to enjoy life together and then focusing on the factors and skills, living in curiosity and fascination, moving towards a thriving marriage, wherever you are at in this process. Here's what happens when a marriage drifts, a few things. When a marriage drifts, you blame your spouse. If you would just change, if you would stop doing this, start doing this, we'll have a great marriage. Listen, when your spouse becomes the source of all of your problems, you don't even know you're doing this, but automatically you're setting your spouse up to be the solution. When your spouse is the source and the solution, you're automatically stuck. You're waiting for them to change. And if you don't catch it at this stage, if you don't catch it at the blame game, it moves to a closed heart. And another way to explain a closed heart is unresolved anger. Unresolved anger is like drinking poison, expecting the other person to get sick. You never bury anger dead, you always bury it alive. I met an angry woman years and years and years ago on the East Coast. I did a session at a church called From Anger to Intimacy. And she walked up to the book table afterwards. She was shaking, she was so mad. And she said, Pastor, I was like, oh, what? She said, I need to say something to you. I'm like, whoa. I said, what's that? And I'm like, Eagle One is in the lobby. Can I get some security out here? Security fast, stat. She said, my husband left me. Do you know why he left me? I'm getting a little picture of it, but I'm sure it's not the whole picture. And then she said, my husband left me because he couldn't handle being married to a successful woman. Now, you hear issues all the time. I've never heard success as a cause for divorce. I've heard money and in-laws, jobs, careers, parenting, sex. I've heard all, but I've never heard success. And I was able to look at her and said, if I can have just a moment with you. I said, your success did not cause your divorce. Well, what do you think it was? I noticed it from across the room, ma'am. What's that? I said, the ginormous chip on your shoulder. I said, it's huge. I don't know who said what, to put it there. I don't know how long it's been there, but I got great news for you. I said, you are 100% responsible for it. You get to choose. Now, be very careful. Some people just heard me say you're 100% to blame for it. I didn't say you're 100% to blame for it. I said, but your ex-husband is remarried and he has moved on. You have to get to a place where you resolve this anger, because you never bury anger dead. You always bury it alive, and it'll resurface in another marriage. It'll resurface with your children. It'll resurface in your church or with other members of your family. You catch it at this point, the closed heart, because if you don't catch it, you move to isolating from others. And by this, I mean you begin to move away from healthy voices that are gonna speak truth in your life. And you begin moving toward the jaded family members, the jaded friends who you know are gonna tell you what you wanna hear, but not necessarily what you need to hear. And you begin to push back, and you fall for this idea that no one understands what I'm going through. And if you spend enough time around those jaded voices, whether it be at work or even on social media, you begin to doubt your future, because that's what the wrong voices in your life and in your marriage will do. You begin to doubt your future. So I want to show you this picture of our new puppy, Sage. Yes, I consider myself a man's man, but when I look at this picture, I want to put a little sweater on her. But I tell you this because it's one of my favorite quotes by Dr. Scott Stanley. He says, everybody falls in love with the front end of the puppy. I need you to let that sink in for just a moment, because every puppy has a back end. And every marriage in here has a back end story. This is the power of small groups, that you would move toward the healthy voices, that you would find a couple maybe a little bit further down the road than you. Because if you don't, you're doubting your future now. You get to this last one where you explore other options. I'm just gonna go online and see what that friend from high school is doing these days. See who they're with, if they're with anybody. Dr. Stanley has a great definition of commitment if your marriage is in drift to this point. Make the decision to give up all other decisions. Make the choice to give up all other choices. Decide, choose to move out of drift and disillusionment and pursue that curiosity and fascination as you go through difficult seasons. As you go through seasons you can do nothing about. As you go through different stages. We're in the teenager stage right now, and they're soon to leave. We're not waiting to be empty nesters to enjoy life together. You can enjoy life with teenagers. Let me say that again. You can enjoy life with teenagers. It's more than possible. But here's what we need to know about these decisions and these factors and skills. What was natural early on must become intentional later on. I was at a church years ago when this popped up on the screen before I could share anything about it, and I saw everybody start to make this face like, what is he about to say? And I looked up, and autocorrect got a hold of what was on the screen, and it actually said, what was natural early on must become international later on. Well, I'm here to tell you, you don't have to leave the country to have a great marriage. You can do it all in Minnesota. It's very possible to do that. But you know what we're talking about here. Remember when you were first dating and you would fight with each other with who was gonna get off the phone first? I'm not hanging up. Nope, you have to hang up. You hang up this, you got in your little baby voices. You hang up this phone right now. I will not hang up this phone. When's the last time you did that as a married person? Right, so these factors and skills we're talking about, natural early on, you just need to become intentional. Here's what I think is cool about this. If you'll make it intentional, it can feel natural again. And we wanna look at some of those factors and skills, starting with the word honor. Honor one another with words of high value. That was very natural early on. Speaking words of high value over one another. Honor, Dr. Smalley would always say, is seeing each person as personally autographed by God. It comes from the imago Dei, the image of God in man. Every single human being is created in the image of God and has automatic intrinsic value. Meaning nothing I say, nothing I do can add to or take away from your value. Because honor recognizes value, it doesn't set value. God has set your value. Some of you may feel worthless right now by the way you were treated, but please hear me, you are not worthless. Through creation, you are an image bearer, but through salvation, faith alone in Christ alone, you become a child of God. Image bearer through creation, child of God through salvation. The word honor, powerful word, and Gary taught Amy and I how to do this. I remember walking into his office one day, and he had 4 pieces of paper stapled together. And I said, what is this? He goes, it's an honor list. I've been keeping track of all the reasons why Norma is highly valuable. Oh, that's cool. I said, what do you do with it? He goes, well, after we get into conflict, I like to remind myself of her value. And I come in here and I pull this honor list out and I start reading it. He goes, I usually don't have to get off the first page before the tears hit. He was a very emotional guy. He said, but I pull this list out and he goes, it's not the time to edit. After conflict, I don't pull the list of all the reasons why she's highly valuable out and be like, no, he said, that's the time to be reminded. In counseling, we would call this confirmation or confirmatory bias, meaning you make decisions and then you look for the evidence to back them up. This is something we must be intentional with if you've been married for a few years. And I encourage you to keep an honor list. I brought mine. Mine is a well-worn list of all the reasons why Amy is highly valuable. And I've been keeping track for years, and I love keeping track of it. And here, let me just tell you, write it as one thing. Gift it to your spouse, that's another. But you really want to take this up a notch. Write it, gift it, and then speak it out loud to your spouse in front of family and friends. Declaring value. Here's some of the reasons why my wife is highly valuable. Number 1, Amy, I love your all or nothing passion. I don't know if it's the Minnesotan in her, but she is a passionate woman. We don't have light conversations in our home. We have strong opinions on everything. And man, and I love, how many of you are married to a strong woman? Would you raise your hand? Let me see it. I always love that. Do you want me to raise my hand right now? If I raise my hand, am I gonna get in trouble? I feel trapped. This is entrapment right here in the middle of the sermon. How you answer the next question will bail you out. How many of you love being married to a strong woman? Get your hand up, quick. Yes, fast. We'll take walks through the neighborhood. My wife doesn't know how to stroll. Everything's about getting our exercise as fast as we can, getting our steps in. And she'll ask me, you squeezing your cheeks together? Listen, I'm 46 and a half. Plus, I grew up Baptist. They're always squeezed together. But I'll come home from a bad day at church and be like, oh, it's kind of a rough day at the office. She's like, fine, let's quit, move to Africa, be missionaries full time. Wow, that escalated real fast. We should definitely sleep on it, but that's her passion. Everything is passion. Woo! We're getting there. We don't have calm conversations. We don't take calm walks. Fired up. I love your silent, patriotic laugh. My wife has the best laugh. When she finds something funny, she places her hand over her heart, she leans forward, and nothing comes out. And I don't know, I love doing comedy. It's been a struggle, as you can imagine, this year. I love hearing your laughs, but I'm not seeing any of you. Like, mask. But before mask, maybe again after, I love when men laugh at a comedy event, they don't care what they look like or what they sound like. I mean, we just let it all go and just, but a woman, for some reason, I see this hundreds, if not thousands of times a year. A woman gets to belly laughing and she'll do this. And she holds it in. Ladies, you can't hold in laughter. You hold in laughter, it turns to cellulite. I need you to get that laughter out there. Do not keep that in. But I love it. She has 2 love languages, acts of service and quality time, which means I serve her for long periods of time. I love your use of the word or. She uses the word or. She wants me to share my opinion on something we're gonna do, and she's very validating. She's going like this the whole time we're talking. Then when I'm done sharing what I think and what I think we should do, she'll go, or? And that's her way of saying, yeah, we ain't doing that. Boy, I got so many. I wish I could share them all. This is just, we're wrapping up for the day. I feel like I should give some more. I love your spontaneity. With 2 to 3 days notice, you cut loose and go with the flow. You tell me, just call me Flo. I love how you protect me around hot things. This is my favorite. I don't know if this is a Minnesota thing or what, but like when I get near anything hot, she jumps in front of me and the hot thing. Whoa! Stop. Like I'll be going by almost every morning with the curling iron. Wait, don't touch it, it's hot. Like when's the last time I walked in here and went, I'm not gonna do it. Just let me be an adult. That's all I'm asking. Honor. Look at where we get this in Proverbs. I love this. A good name is more desirable than great riches. Watch this. To be esteemed. We do honor lists with our staff, and we do honor bombardments at staff meetings. It's one of my favorite things to do. And just the idea of giving someone honor or speaking their value in the room, let me tell you, you can't put a price on that. We did this for my mom on her 64th birthday. I had everybody prepare an honor list. It was the first honor list we gave my mom. Just pulling the list out at the table, my mom goes, you know, I hate it when you guys do this. That's what honor does. I don't know if it's harder to give honor or receive it. But look what it says. Rich and poor have this in common. The Lord is the maker of them all. You have automatic intrinsic value. And it was natural early on to call it out. I just want to encourage you to get back to that and be intentional with it. Write it down and speak it. There's something else we need to be intentional with, and that is quality time. Again, this wasn't something we worked on early on in dating and engagement. It came natural, but now we need to be intentional. And here's 3 ways we can be intentional with quality time: a daily delay, a weekly withdrawal, and an annual abandon. When we were starting the church almost 19 years ago, and we were getting ready to start a family, one of my mentors pulled me in and said, hey, I'm concerned for you and Amy. I'm really concerned to starting the church, starting a family all at the same time. I fear that your marriage is gonna get left out. I fear that you're gonna prioritize everyone and everything else and let your marriage drift. He said, the next time we meet, I want you to give me a plan. And this is when he introduced me to the daily delay, the weekly withdrawal, and the annual abandon. The daily delay is 15, 20 minutes of time in the home every day that's just body to body, eyeball to eyeball, distraction-free, kid-free, tech-free. The weekly withdrawal, that's a date night. And I know that's been challenging over the last year, but we have to get creative with it. And then the annual abandon. This is in the home. The weekly withdrawal is out of the home but in town. And the annual abandon is let's get out of town. And I know we've had to be creative in that moment too. But the Song of Solomon is this great 8-chapter book in the Old Testament. And it's the lyrics of this duet between Solomon and the Shulamite woman. Chapters 1 and 2, they're dating. Chapter 3, they get married. Chapter 4, they go on a honeymoon. And then chapters 5, 6, 7, and 8, they're building faithfulness and commitment into the marriage. We get all these great word pictures. I wish we had time to share many of them, but I love this first one that we get. The Shulamite woman's referring of their time together, or even thoughts of their time together, as En-Gedi. And En-Gedi is this lush oasis. That's just a perfect word picture. In the midst of the grind, may your home, may your marriage be a place you can't wait to get back to. May you be intentional with your time together and intentional with your words that you share over one another so that when you get home, you can disconnect from the grind of life and you can connect to one another, not as the grind. This lush, may your home be a place of rest and relaxation and rejuvenation where you don't come home to reconnect on social media, that you're able to just put that aside a little bit and have intentional time together. I found most couples have told me the first reconnection point at the end of the day is a terrible time for daily delay. Whatever time works for you. For some, it might be right before bed. You will have more children if you choose that one. For others, it might be early in the morning. It may be an hour after you get home. The daily delay is your choice. But also, I want to encourage you with a date night to be specific and intentional with getting it on the calendar, because date nights are good, but anticipating a date night, even better. And look at what we read in chapter 2. We get this word picture of anticipation towards Solomon taking the Shulamite woman away. And here's what she says of him. Listen, my beloved, look, here he comes, leaping across the mountains, bounding over the hills. This is excitement. He's coming to get her and pick her up for a date. My beloved is like a gazelle or a young stag. Look, there he stands behind our wall, gazing through the windows, peering through the lattice. If you're new to Hebrew poetry, you read that and like, this guy's a peeping Tom. That's kind of creepy right there. That's not at all what it's speaking of. It's speaking of anticipation. The excitement of, yeah, we have a date planned, but man, the preparing for it and the thinking about it is just as much fun. My beloved spoke and said to me, arise, my darling, my beautiful one, come with me. And then we move from winter into spring. See, the winter has passed, the rains are over and gone. Flowers appear on the earth. The season of singing has come. The cooing of the doves is heard in our land. The fig tree forms its early fruit. The blossoming vines spread their fragrance. And again, he says, arise, come, my darling, my beautiful one, come with me. Schedule it, plan it. And I know Minnesota's opening up, I think, a little bit more this week. Even if it's picking something up and eating in a parking lot, right? planning the time together and prioritizing it. And then this is something you can plan that you might not be able to go on for another year, but annual abandons are so important for Amy. It's why her favorite annual abandon is going to New York City. She loves New York City. We've been in so much mourning not being able to do that this time. But my wife, her love language is walking. I told you that. I mean, she wants to go to a city and walk 12 to 15 miles a day. That's like her, and we're going, man. We're full on. We've been thinking about what a next trip to a big city might look, just because that just is exciting for us. And we read about that in chapter 7. They're now married. They're no longer dating. They got married in chapter 3. They're at the honeymoon in chapter 4. And now she's going to invite the busy shepherd king out of town for an annual abandon. Come, my beloved, let us go to the countryside. Let us spend the night in the villages. Let us go early to the vineyards to see if the vines have budded, if their blossoms have opened, and if the pomegranates are in bloom. Look at this. There I will give you my love. And the Hebrew term for that is bound, chicka, chicka, bound. That's the Hebrew term. She is inviting him out of town for passion and intimacy. Even if you can't get back to a regular schedule on this, start talking about it again. Start being intentional with what date night looks like, with what an out-of-town trip. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You don't have to go to far off. You can experience high levels of marital satisfaction without going international. But plan it. And then there's this last factor that's so important. You can spend a lot of time. I love coaching couples individually. And I got to tell you, the hard part is when you really get them going on these factors and skills and they become intentional again with them in their relationship, I'm always concerned about all the other voices that are speaking into their marriage. Mentioned it a few moments ago, those jaded voices. We say at our church in Branson, Missouri, country music town, every marriage is a duet in need of great backup singers. And you need to think through who your backup singers are. It's a very important factor for the success of your marriage. It's a decision you must make. Amy and I, we have 2 couples that are backup singers to us. You don't need a choir. You don't need a lot of people. And let me just tell you, my single friends, you are backup singers. You are backup singers to the duets all around you. That's why I'm so thankful that you leaned in for this message today, because you have people that you know couples that are in drift. And here's what I get from a lot of backup singers. I'm just not gonna say anything. I don't wanna get involved. But sometimes I don't want you to be that jaded backup singer. Because some of you right now have backup singers that you know you need to turn down or mute altogether. But then you need to start deciding as a couple, who are our backup singers gonna be? And this is what I love about Eagle Brook. Eagle Brook desires to be a great backup singer for your duet. Where do we get this? There's another group of characters in the Song of Solomon. They're called the Daughters of Jerusalem. And every time you see them in this book, they are rejoicing and delighting and praising in the budding love between Solomon and the Shulamite woman. And they say this in chapter 1, verse 4. We rejoice and delight in you. We will praise your love more than wine. I was brought here today because this church believes, and they're doing this series because this church believes, and they have small groups for your marriage because this church believes. They are rejoicing and delighting and praising your love. I would just encourage you, I always do this activity with couples, sit down individually and write out a list of everyone who's an influence in your marriage. And if it's family members, you're like, well, we can't stop talking to her mom. I'm not telling you to cut family members out of your life, but you can decide there's a boundary there and they're no longer gonna be an influence in our marriage. And if I can just encourage the mother-in-law, the father-in-law, you wanna be a great backup singer to your child, advocate for their marriage, not just your child. Be a great backup singer for the duet, not a solo act. And again, I'm not talking about neglect or abuse or anything like that. I'm talking about finding a way to be a great backup singer. I encourage couples, write down individually, who's an influence? Somebody at work, somebody in the family, a neighbor, and then bring those lists together and to decide together as a couple, who are we going to turn way up? Who's a good backup singer for us? And who do we need to turn down? If you're not in a small group, I encourage the widows and the widowers of our church, boy, get into a small group. You have so much to offer. You have so much help that you can do. Don't neglect your voice as a backup singer. My encouragement to you, wherever your marriage is, to think through honor, quality time, and who is speaking in to your marriage as you look at these factors and skills. And then my prayer is that you will experience high levels of marital satisfaction. Would you pray with me? Father, I thank you for Eagle Brook and the backup singer that this church is, to all the duets, not just here in the room, not just even online, but throughout Minnesota, and just the influence that those online, those in the room are gonna take tomorrow to work. There are gonna be Zoom calls discussing marriages. There's gonna be in-person meetings discussing it. There's gonna be family gatherings again one day on a regular basis. I know that this is gonna be just something we think about. Like, how do we best support the duets? That we don't just think about the backup singers we have, but that we also desire to be great backup singers. For the marriage that's good, that knows there could be so much more, I pray for that marriage today. For the marriage that's in drift, that they will decide today to begin looking at the factors and skills to achieve high levels of marital satisfaction. And to my single friends who will walk an aisle one day, that they will understand the power of decision in early relationship formation and then all throughout. And for the one who's hurting during a time like this, I know talking about marriage, they maybe just came out of a very painful marriage. I pray peace for them, that if they're feeling worthless, that they would understand that that feeling is not what you have said about them, that they have great worth because they were created in your image. And I pray all of this in the name of Jesus, amen. Thank you, Eagle Brook. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend.